this video today, we are covering how to escape from being just a sales rep to actually leveling up to a sales leader, okay? I'm gonna be telling you guys my story, how I went from a sales rep door to door to a CEO of a company, and all the failures and successes I had along the way. So we're gonna be breaking down in this video what makes a great salesman and what attributes, habits, behaviors that do correlate with being a sales leader. And then we're gonna deep dive on which ones do not. Okay, now this is the problem. Sales is one of the greatest careers and skill sets that anybody can develop to prepare them to be a leader. But in many ways, it's also one of the worst. So before we jump into, I want to tell you guys a little bit about my story. So I've been knocking doors for over a decade now, from serving a mission in Brazil as a missionary teaching people about Jesus Christ to selling pest control and solar. I've also sold coaching and many other products, and I've done very well. I've made millions in commissions. I've trained thousands of salespeople. I'm the founder of SalesCon, and I love empowering salespeople to not just sell at a higher level, but be more convicted, focus on self-development, and eventually get so good at their craft where they can't help but not duplicate their success to help other salespeople. Now, why am I so convicted with sales, guys? It's because it's changed my life, not just financially, but for the people that I've been able to sell. And I want to transfer not just the skill set, but the mindset is the most important part of what makes you great. And that mindset is what makes you great at sales and as a leader. So first off, let's jump into what skill sets, habits, behaviors that do translate from great salesmanship to great leadership. Okay, number one is the ability to obviously influence other people. Now, I break that down in two specific categories. You got confidence and you have conviction. Confidence comes from how to do something well. It's your nonverbal, paraverbal communication. It's your word tracks, your scripts, your objection handling. That's confidence. Conviction is different. People often just jumble these two terms together, but they're completely different. Again, confidence comes from how to do something well. Conviction comes from why you do something. What's the benefit for that person that you're trying to convince? Why are you trying to convince them? Okay, if I have the cure to cancer, you best bet I'm going to be persistent. I'm going to be very persuasive. And if you tell me no 5 times, I'm probably going to keep going because I love you and I care about you and I want to help and serve you. If you don't have a product that's like that, you should probably get convicted behind the product. So sometimes slowing down to speed up is going to help you sell more. Okay. Both of these skills translate into leadership because you are constantly influencing people. So the greater your ability to influence and sell people, that will directly correlate and translate over to your ability to sell and influence people as a leader. The second is understanding what it's like to work for yourself. As a salesman and as a leader, it's an eat what you kill game. You're not getting paid by hour. You're getting paid on results. You have to manage your time. You have to learn how to set goals. You have to understand how to reverse engineer those goals and guarantee the success. Finally, it's the attitude of hustle, grind, persistence, the mindset that you develop as a salesman directly translate over to being successful as a leader. Let's step back and let me break down what doesn't translate from great salesmanship to great leadership, okay? Because I've learned the painful way and I want to share this with you guys so you don't have to go through what I did to get where I've gotten. Okay, now first off, I want to start with a quote, okay? Sales makes you dangerous, leadership makes you durable. The first thing you have to change is your mentality. Great salespeople are inherently selfish. Don't take that the wrong way, okay? Great leadership is inherently selfless. Let me explain why you have to be selfish in a good way as a salesman to get success, okay? If you are going to your training, your correlation meeting, and you're too worried about all the other reps and they want to train with you all day, you're not going to get out to area, right? If you're giving away leads to other guys, you're not going to make sales. If you're worried about calling your mom or your dad, your brother, or your friend, and being there for them all the time and being a therapist, you're not going to make money as a salesman. I know many guys who do this. They just do about anything they can to avoid being, selfish and prioritizing their work. You have to be present. You have to be obsessed. You have to dial the F in and go. Now, as a leader, it can't be any more different. You have to obsess on other people's results more than you do yourself. Now, let me tell you guys a story. I hired one of the greatest salesmen I've ever met in my life. This was a while back. I'm not going to tell you who it is. Okay. He's a great human being. And it was to my detriment that I chose to push him into leadership when really he just wanted to make a lot of money and do what he was really good at, selling. And I had to learn the hard way that skill set of selling, just because you're world-class at it does not mean you are going to be world-class as a leader. And for this very purpose, okay, this guy at the end of the day had a great heart, but at the end of the day, he just wanted to make money for himself. And he saw the sales force, the people that he was technically a leader over, as a means to an end for him to get what he wanted. And great leaders don't think that way. It's the opposite. They think, how can I empower these people to get what they want so then I can get what I want? And if you have that the other way around, you have a train wreck inevitably coming. So with this particular leader, we ended up having terrible rep retention. I remember looking at it and after hiring 50 guys, we were down to, 20. And once we put in new leadership, everything changed. Even though the other people we put in leadership had half the close rate he had, our rep retention and ultimately our results as a company were much better. Now, one of the biggest red flags to look for if you're a business owner or a team leader and you're trying to grow other leaders, the person that you're putting into leadership, are they more concerned about their paycheck than the people they oversee and lead? This is the shift you have to make. There's going to be times where you look at your bank account. This is the pain of leadership. This is why leadership makes you durable, because it is painful. You will go through times inevitably where you are taking a hit to empower your other people. And you'll see your people, if you're doing it right, making way more than you. One of my leaders right now in our company is absolutely dominating, okay? And he's kind of taken a pay cut. And one of his guys is making $150,000 to $200,000 a month, all right? That's what it takes. You have this high income, you start as a sales rep, and then you start transitioning it down to get this other income from overrides and leadership, and it's a slow game. And there's a balance to it. So what I want to tell you guys with my story was, you don't just go from 100% to selling to 0 and 100% leadership recruiting. If you go that mode, it will backfire, because the recruiting path is a slow paying game. And if you try to expedite it, you're either going to come off too greedy and take too much from people, right? And not pay them enough, which will ultimately have a high turnover and you're not going to grow. All right. So let me break down exactly what specifically do sales reps that transition to leadership struggle with. And I've noticed a couple patterns. Okay. Number one, they're not tracking meticulously the goals, the numbers, the stats, the KPIs of their people. It's one thing to manage your own goals, your own targets, your own KPIs yourself. Most great salespeople know their numbers, their close rate, their set rate, their sit rate. But as a leader, you have to know your people's numbers. Now, you also have to understand there's something called the rule of 7. Any great leader can usually manage effectively 7 people. And we'll break this down more on the end of this video of what makes a great sales leader, of being a boss, mentor, and friend. But once you get past 7 to 10 people, it's hard to play all those games of boss, mentor, and friend effectively, to actually know their story and their personal life and keep up with it at scale. So you need to promote and build other leaders. That's the solution. So that's why this conversation is so critical. You can't scale unless you know how to build people. And then with that, you need the right systems. At the end of the day, guys, it's all leadership and systems. So it's one thing to track your reps' progress day to day. Most leaders do that. Most track week to week. Now, what most don't do is look at the trends from week to week, month to month, and study the curves, because no matter how good of a leader you are, these curves are inevitable, and you have to understand everybody in your team's at a different point. And so it requires you to plug in one-on-one with these people. And this is what most leaders that fail don't understand. They're not organized, and they're not disciplined enough to talk to people. They don't create a cadence around their calendar. Okay. It's just kind of like this reactive mindset. You have to be proactive. You have to be a planner. If you're not a planner, you're not going to make it in leadership, period. Without the one-on-ones, you can't understand your reps and understand these curves, their trends, and if they're up or they're down. And it inhibits your ability to coach and ultimately increase the performance. Now, these one-on-ones don't have to be an hour long. They could be 5 to 15 minutes, and it makes a dramatic improvement. And you're teaching your people, as you do these, the patterns of success of studying the KPIs, looking at their dashboard, their numbers, right? And sometimes you'll sit down with your people as a sales leader, and you'll catch a blind spot. You're looking at their volume. You're looking at their sets, their sit rate, their close rate, their attrition. How many referrals are they generating, right? And as you look at all the data, there's always going to be a hole, and there's always opportunities for you to praise them, right? And so these one-on-ones are critical. I see many people dropping the ball on those. And even if they do them, they're not tracking the numbers. The lack of preparation is massively inhibiting their leadership and ultimately the performance they're going to get out of their team. Now, the second part of this is a lot of leaders are afraid to hold their people accountable to their goals, or they don't know how to do it. They come off as micromanaging, okay? Now, I believe in a principle that you micromanage until there's trust. But if you set the right expectation up front with your people that say, hey, can I hold you accountable to this goal? You ask for permission from the people to do that. And as you do so, when you follow up and you hold them accountable, it comes from a place of loving care rather than manipulation. Or he's just doing this because he wants to make more money, make more overrides. All he cares about is the number. He doesn't care about me. Okay. So I can't stress enough the organization, the tracking of the KPIs, the studying of the trends and the curves, use AI, use graphs to help you. Okay. And the preparation in these meetings to help coach your people and run these one-on-ones effectively. Now, if you want to take the one-on-ones to another level, watch my page. I talk about it a lot, but it's so critical that you guys also pour into your people in their personal life. All right, we'll cover that a little bit later. All right, guys, the second point is the speed of execution. Okay, great salespeople move very fast, as they should. Great leaders move fast, but they also know when to move slow. Now, how does this translate into leadership? Let me tell you kind of from my story. When it comes to negotiating pay with people, when it comes to hiring people, my gosh, I can't stress this enough. Listen, hiring any sales rep. All right. I know most salespeople are paid on commission, even if you pay them a small salary, whatever. Okay. And you're not really worried because they're going to bring in revenue, that you only pay them when they bring in revenue. But you have to understand there's a massive risk that most leaders don't calculate. And it's in the culture. It's the team. Okay. And culture drives results, which drives, culture drives behavior, which drives results. And so you need to be slow to hire, fast to fire. I've made both of these mistakes several times, and it's literally cost me $1 million. You could hire an A+ performer with sales talent, but if he is a C in his culture or adherence in a fit within the company, your core values and everything, it will cause a massive rift. In fact, the better the talent that he has with this lack of alignment on other principles and other ideology with your company, the more it will backfire as if he was not skilled, because these guys usually have influence and they have pull. Okay. So if there's dissentment in the company or in the team from this top performer, it will actually kill your culture, which ultimately kill the performance of other reps. And then when you fire him, you might end up losing a lot of other people as well. Okay. So one thing I want to highlight is if you act fast, it's good. You want to execute. You need to learn to execute with speed as a salesman and even as a leader. Now, if everybody has clarity, everyone's on the same page, everyone's aligned, and you know what you need to do to hit your target now and in the long run, speed is king. Money loves speed. Now, as long as there's a lack of clarity and you take action fast, it's going to exacerbate uncertainty, and uncertainty is going to rip apart your sales team and ultimately kill the performance and the buy-in. So what does this mean on a leadership level? If you have other leaders that you're working with trying to promote, you need to dedicate time every month, every quarter to sit down with those people and think on the business. Slow down to speed up. Hey, Nick, we can't take 1 or 2 days off. Yeah, you can take 2 days off, hell, even 3 days off to meet as a leadership team to get 3x the production over the next 90 days than as if you had not, okay? And as you grow a business, there's going to be more problems and things that break. As you grow a sales team, there's going to be more issues. You have to understand who to promote, who not to promote, who to cut, who not to cut, right? There's a lot of change that you'll have to make as you grow. Even if you're in a well-oiled, well-established company, this is critical. Okay, the third thing that has to change is going from being reactive to proactive. Okay, great salespeople can still be reactive. They have to put out fires, text customers fast, respond to when customers want to cancel. You got to be on the ball. Okay, now when it comes to great leadership, you have to do this. You have to put out fires. You have to be quick to execute, quick to reply to people. I see a lot of people fail, especially with the communication side. They just don't communicate. You can't build anything, any team without communication. You need consistency. You need communication. All right. But with that, it becomes a game of whack-a-mole because they're so used to this habit of putting out fires as they come from their sales experience. When they move into leadership, there's way more problems, and they're used to putting out fires. And it's not running a business. It's whack-a-mole. You're playing a game, not running a business. And so you have to transition from the whack-a-mole game by building out systems. And building out systems is being proactive, not reactive. It's, okay, I put out the fire. Now what caused the fire, and how can I stop this in the future? Do I need to delegate something to somebody, right? There needs to be a chain of command with communication, whatever it is. But to summarize, the solution is to build systems and build leadership. A great system is looking at a problem that you solved, documenting it, then training other people on that system and then holding them accountable. That's the 3-step process to drive effective systems. Now, the systems are only as good as the leadership that's implementing it. So that point number 2 of training them is critical. All right, the 4th point that has to change is the focus. The focus of great salesmanship is innately short-term focused. Great leadership is long-term focused. Sales, guys, is an instant gratification game. Leadership is a delay of gratification game. Making sales comes quick. Building people comes slow. There are shortcuts to mastering sales. There's virtually no shortcuts to building people, which is, it's the slowest yet fastest way to build a business, okay? Now, I want to help you guys understand these short-term wins as you transition from great salesmanship to great leadership. Part of what bridges that gap is leading from the front. You got to be out there doing the thing, showing them in the field. You can't be a desk jockey in sales. You're going to lose, okay? But there is a transition point, okay? And so it's this selling all the time, working in the business, trading time for money, to working on the business, basically building and scaling. You have to transition kind of like this, all right? And again, I see a lot of people just kind of knee-jerk switch from one position to the next, or they burn out and they want to go into leadership. They start recruiting a ton of people. People will know, okay? So what I did, it worked pretty well. And I was selling all the time, making $200,000 a month in solar in Utah. And then I did that for quite a while. And then I started scaling back to 100,000 and then 50,000 a month. And I was able to make 50,000 a month working about 20 hours in the field a week. And so I was able to dedicate another 20 to 50, 60 hours a week, depending on the time of year, to building the business, working on marketing, building systems, building people, training, recruiting. All right. So that's part of the game that you have to play is switching that transition. Luckily, in my industry, I've actually built out an entire system for this within Door to Door, because our optimal time to sell is between 2 and 9 p.m. And the optimal time to build the business, train people, recruit, podcast, do marketing for me was in the morning, in the first part of the day. So it was a perfect schedule that I ran. Okay. I was, at the office the first half of the day, second half of the day, I was in the field. And that allowed me to maintain my 50 to 100,000 a month income, which also helped me empower people and lead from the front, because they knew I wasn't being a desk jockey. So when I told them to go do something, I had the moral authority, to do so, because I was doing it myself. Right. And I was doing it 20 hours a week, making more than anybody, and still able to do all the other things. And so it didn't just, it was a form of inspiring my people, not just telling them what to do. Okay. All right. That leads me to the 5th point here. Okay. And this is the difference between sales and marketing. Now, to be a great leader doesn't mean you have to be a great marketer, but if you become great at the skill, it will quickly expedite your success, because it'll empower you to recruit and build people faster. Sales and marketing are the same. Urgency applies to it. Understanding your avatar applies to it. Okay. But sales is selling one-to-one. Marketing is selling one-to-many. Now, leaders that grow the fastest in sales understand this principle, that marketing is senior to sales. So to run great sales teams, you don't have to be a great marketer. I'm just telling you, if you can build out the scheduling system and have the bandwidth and you have the desire to do so, it's going to expedite your recruiting efforts and ultimately allow you to build faster. Now, if you have terrible other leaders and systems that you're plugging into, your rep retention is terrible. It doesn't matter how good you are at the marketing and recruiting, it's going to flop. So before you go hard on the marketing and the recruiting, make sure your systems, your people, everything is dialed. Okay, guys, the last couple points here. Number 6 is sales is about controlling. Leadership is about enabling. You absolutely want to embrace this mindset of control freak, and we can laugh at it, right? It's terrible for relationships. It's great for selling. Now, it's not that you control your prospect, but a great salesman will control the conversation through asking questions, not just push them around and talking over them. Great salespeople will control the conversation and still only talk 20% of the time. All right. But because they're asking questions, just like a doctor would diagnose a patient, a great salesman is going to sell by asking questions and controlling the conversation. And a prospect asks a question, and the great salesman takes control back by asking the question. It's a control game. All right. It's controlling KPIs, inputs and outputs, right? You have control. Even with the law of averages, you can control the success. Now, leadership, it's less about control. It's more about channeling that control into systems and enabling other people to basically fail. And that's the hard part, is letting them fail. This is the lesson as a parent, as a leader, that everybody has to learn. And you have to let go of this control freak side and enable and give things away to people. Let them fail. And here's the hardest part, for me, and I've seen a lot of other people fail with this transition part because they know their close rate is 50 to 70, 80%, whatever it is. And then the guy that they hired is 30, 40, 50% or less. And so it's painstaking to watch these leads kind of get thrown away to guys who aren't as good as you. Okay. Now here's the entrepreneurship leadership rule of thumb. It's the 70-30 rule. If somebody can do something 70% as effectively as you, delegate it. If not, keep doing it and have them shadow you and train with you until they can perform at 70% of what you're able to do. So let's say you as the leader, you close 7 out of 10 leads that come in. If you're able to get your people to close at least 5 out of 10 of those leads, that's the rule of thumb, right? If they're closing 2 or 3, then you shouldn't keep just dishing them leads. You need to come in, train them, and have them shadow you and have them watch you do it until they can duplicate the skill or just pull someone new in. The last point here is that sales is about convincing. Leadership is about inspiring. All right. Now, confidence is what makes people great in sales. Certainty is what makes people great in leadership. Confidence comes from how to sell well, and conviction's also in there, as we talked about, and that comes from why you sell, why you do it, what's the impact of your product or service, how does it make people's life better? Is it something you own? Is it something you give to your friends and family? If you didn't make a commission, that's how you know you're convicted, and you will sell to the degree that you're sold, okay? Now, leadership, different story. You can have all the confidence, all the conviction in the world, that will help. But certainty comes from how you live your life, not how you sell, not why you do what you do. It comes from how do you live? How is your discipline? Are you giving it everything? There is massive authority. It's called moral authority, okay? And when you are telling people to do something, as I told you, like I had the authority to do so because I was doing it myself. And so sales, guys, is a game of skill development. Leadership is a game of self-development. And what I love to teach people is that you can only change others to the degree that you have changed yourself. So if you're not developing yourself, learning, becoming smarter and better, you can only attract to the level that you have personally become. And this is the pinnacle, the foundation of leadership. People are buying into you, just like people buy from the salesperson. They're buying the person because they like them. That's a huge part of it, right? With leadership, it's even more so. People are not just buying a product and trading money for your product or service. They're literally trading their life to come work and follow you, okay, to trust you. And so you have to be very compelling. And that purely doesn't come from what you say or do. You might be able to inspire people by your flattering words or ideas for a season. But eventually they see if you're the real deal or not over time. And so it's less about trying to put on a show and really go back into the dark room, slow down, work on yourself, understand where are you weak. And I'm not just talking in the career and the business and financials. I'm talking your physical life, your emotional side, your spiritual side, your relationships. Okay. If I were you, I'd write down all the pillars of your life and rank yourself 1 through 10. And the ones that are the lowest, focus on that. For me, a year and a half ago, it was emotional health. I was reactive in situations. I was easily angered. And as I slowed down and started working on myself, journaling my thoughts, my emotions, I went to a Tony Robbins event, started doing some breakthrough work, overcoming pornography, different things like that. It gave me this new conviction, and it literally translated to success in business because I was able to understand, empathize, be more patient with people, right? And there's just this different energy that you have when you're developing yourself. And so if you're going to push your people to develop and level up their sales talent, but you're not leveling up you as a person in general, okay, you're going to be coming from a point of hypocrisy to some degree. And so I'm telling you, leverage this moral authority, work on yourself, okay? Go hard. If you want a pattern for this, I'm not obsessive with morning routines, but they do help, okay? I believe spend the first part of your day, 5 to 9, working on yourself. Yeah, and if you want to build into leadership, spend 9 to 2 or 1 o'clock or so building the business, okay? And then the rest of the day spend in the business. Now, to some degree, you might have to vary those. If you're in sales and you're trying to transition into leadership, you might have to, you might only have from 9 to 10 or 9 to 11 in the morning to be able to work on the business, and you're selling the rest of the day. Now, if you're on the phone and selling leads, it's different schedule, right? You want to be on the phones in the morning, so you might have to work on the business and build and scale, recruit at the end of the day. So I'm just giving you a framework of what worked for me, guys. Okay, guys, so in this training today, so far, I have a couple more things to cover, but so far, just to recap, we've covered what things translate from great salesmanship to leadership. We've covered which ones do not, and we broke those down in depth. Okay. And now I'm going to tell you the 3 priorities of a great sales leader and the 3 roles of a great sales leader. Okay. The 3 priorities, let's start with that. Number 1, sell. Number 2, recruit. Number 3, develop others. You need to simplify. Those at the core are the focus of great sales leadership. You have to be able to sell and lead from the front. If you just do 2 and 3, recruit and develop other people and train, you're not going to have this moral authority as I and other great sales leaders have had. Now, you look at some massive organizations like Vivint and Door to Door, and there's many other organizations within virtual sales and phone sales that have done the same. Their leadership had a system where even the regional vice presidents, okay, that had over 1,000 reps were required to sell a certain amount of accounts, 30 accounts every single year, because they understood this leadership from empathy, this moral authority aspect, and how empowering it was to drive sales performance. It removes all hypocrisy. So number 1 is sell. Number 2 is recruit. Okay. Unless you are bringing new blood and talent to the team, you're not going to grow. Okay. Now, not only that, the recruiting aspect is massive because it gives you leverage. Whether your guys try to negotiate against you or whatever, the best way to win any negotiation is to not need it. And as you are pulling in more people, you're not as desperate for that position. So it's not that you're using this against people to keep them to stay. It's just if they try to leverage you and manipulate you, you don't have to take it. But that's not the key reason. The main reason is to grow the bottom line. And the reality is, no matter how good the sales training is, 80 to 90% of people that get into sales, the statistic is they fail. Great sales teams, systems, obviously that number is a lot lower. But regardless, you could be world-class and you're still going to have a 50% churn rate. And you could be super selective with who you hire and hire less people. So your churn rate is, closer to 10, 20%, but still at the end of the day, recruiting is the funnel that pumps in talent into your organization. Okay. Number 3 is developing other people. This is almost the most important. Okay. Because if you don't develop your people, you have the perfect system, you'd be really good at selling, you're never going to grow. And part of this, you have to understand, if your people don't want to develop, don't pour into those people. Now, I want to break this down a little further. You have your top 20% of your people that drive 80% of the results. We all know the Pareto principle. Okay. Now, what I have done is I've created a system with my one-on-ones where our team leaders, the guys who are managing the sales team on the floor, right? They are meeting with these guys, the top 20% every week on their one-on-one, and the bottom 80% every other week. So in other words, the bottom 80% don't get the same amount of time and input and training as the top 20%. That's how you have to play the game, because those top 20% are driving most of the results. And the more you pump into them and train them and mentor them, the more results they're ultimately going to get in with recruiting, with selling, and developing other leaders. And so it becomes an exponential game versus linear. Okay. And then regional VP, divisional owners, I believe the best system is they meet with their top people, their top 20% monthly. And then on a quarterly cadence, they meet with the bottom 80%. So everybody's getting seen at least quarterly by even the top guys. This helps the buying of the culture, setting goals, everything. But it's also allowing you guys to prioritize who's pumping in the results and to put more into them. Okay. I've always said we feed the beast that's part of my company. We put more time, capital, energy, training into the top 20%. And I honestly do believe, guys, it's even more truncated towards like 5% and 95%. So take what you want with that. Okay. The 3 roles of a great sales leader, guys. This is the last part of the training here. Boss, mentor, friend. The boss is the guy who holds the line, holds the standard. You need to set the standard and hold it. When people don't hit it, the number one thing you need to do is you need to get rid of them. Not on the day, but you give them a week. So you get your shit together, you hit the KPI, or you're out of here. That builds culture. That culture drives results. Okay. That results is what everybody wants, but they're not willing to do the hard thing and cut the guy. I know it sounds mean, but it's how you build a world-class sales team and sales organization. Number 2, mentor. Okay. Outside of the sales results, how are you helping them grow physically, mentally, emotionally? This will drive, this is critical, not just for, the feel good and for retention. You do this because it will quite literally drive results. Now, the boss part drives results in the short term. The mentor part drives results in the long term. And it's your best odds for long-term success and ultimately building leaders and recruiting more people and scaling your organization or your sales team faster. Okay. The third part is the friend. This part is also critical because you have to have the emotional connection. And this is where that rule of 7 comes in. You want to have such a good connection where you know your guys' pets' names, their wife's names. You know about the part of the details of their family and personal life, and you're able to show up and talk things not just about business, but how they're doing as a human. And if you can cultivate all 3 of these, okay, you're going to fill the role of a great sales leader, and your success will be much faster than most. Okay. So guys, I hope this training was effective. My challenge for you guys is just pick 2 or 3 things from this video in this training to implement and execute. And if this was helpful at all, please, whether you're listening on the podcast or on YouTube or a training video, share this with somebody else so that we can help move the needle, grow more people in effect, and change more lives for the better. Thank you guys.